Good morning. Today we will discuss about a very interesting part of the subject biology. So let's begin with that part. Today we shall discuss about the part sexual reproduction in plants. Okay, so this is a very interesting chapter in which the flowers, the main reproductive part of a flowering plant, is present. So let's begin. Sexual reproduction, as you can see in the screen, sexual reproduction is a common method of reproduction in flowering plants. Seeds are produced as a result of sexual reproduction, which germinate and grow into new plants. So this is the basic concept of the sexual reproduction in plants. This only happens in details in the reproduction system of the plants, which are sexual reproduction. So in flowering plants, it is the most common method of reproduction. Reproduction is needed for every living organism for the continuity and survival of a species, of a particular species. So we cannot say that reproduction is not mandatory. It's a must for the life to continue. So seeds are the ultimate products of reproduction, and these only germinate and grow into new independent plants. So let's see what the structure of a flower says. Structure of a flower, as you can see in the screen, flowers are the organs of reproduction in seed-bearing plants called angiosperms. So here we can see that the flower-bearing plants, that is seed-bearing plants, are called angiosperms. So in those plants, that is in angiosperms, flowers are the organs of reproduction. A flower contains male and female gametes. Gametes, as we all know, are reproductive sex cells. So they are also called gametes. So a flower is sexual and it contains male and female gametes both. The function of flowers is to form seeds, is to produce seeds. This is the main function of a flower. Seeds can germinate and grow into new plants, in new independent plants. As you can see in the screen, seeds only, as we can see in our day-to-day life also, when a seed of a tree or a plant falls on the soil, it eventually becomes a new independent plant over a few weeks or months, etc. Let's go next. Flowers differ in their size, shape and color. Yes, we can see that is a rose is not similar to a marigold. They are different in color, shape and size too. Yet most of them have a common structure. Most of the flowers are based on the same structure only. Most flowers have 4 whorls or layers arranged in a definite manner on a fleshy base, which is called thalamus or receptacle. You can say any one of these. Either you can say thalamus or you can say receptacle. Most flowers have these 4 whorls. Okay, they are arranged in a definite manner on the fleshy base. Thalamus is the fleshy base on which the 4 whorls of a flower are based. Okay, the 4 whorls are calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. Gynoecium is also known as pistil. The outer two whorls, these are the 4 whorls: calyx, corolla, androecium and gynoecium. These are the ultimate 4 whorls of flower. The outer 4 whorls, that is calyx and corolla. The outer 2 whorls comprises the calyx, that is the sepals, and corolla, that is the petals. So these are the outer 2 whorls of a flower. They do not take part in reproduction. The inner 2 whorls comprise the androecium, that is stamens, and gynoecium, that is carpels. So these are the inner 2 whorls of flowers. They take part in reproduction. The inner 2 whorls take part in reproduction, namely androecium and gynoecium. Androecium is the male part of the flower and gynoecium is the female part of the flower. The structure of a typical flower is described in the figure. I am showing it to you. You can see this is the flower. You can see the red petals, that is the petals, are brightly colored and attractive whole of the flower. Then you can see the stigma, style, ovules, ovary, pistil, that is the stigma, style and ovary, and inside the ovary the ovules are present. So stigma, style and ovary constitute the pistil, that is the gynoecium, which is the female part of the flower. And you can see here also anther, filament. So these comprises the stamens, that means androecium of the flower, male part of the flower. Here you can see the sepal, and thalamus is present, fleshy base of the flower, and pedicel, which I was talking about. Pedicel is the stalk of the flower from which the flower grows. In the stem, there in the branches of the trees there are a small bud. From there the flower arises. This is only called the pedicel, that is the stalk. From the bud a stalk grows, so that is only called the pedicel of the flower. So here is written the functions of different parts of the flower, so you can view it. It's anther, that is bears pollen grains which contain the male gamete or sex cell. Filament, the stalk, tiny stalk that bears the anther. So you can see the stamen has two parts, anther and filament. Filament is the long tiny stalk and anther is the upper part of the stamen. Sepal is green in color, forms the outermost hole of the flower called calyx. Okay, protects the flower in the bud stage. Sepal only protects the flower in its bud stage. Now we are coming to the pistil part again to describe the different functions of the pistil. So here we can see its stigma, sticky bifurcated tip of the style on which pollen grains are deposited. So this is sticky bifurcated part on which the pollen grains from other flowers are deposited in case of pollination. We will learn later in this part. So next we are going to style. There is a slender long stalk of the pistil. Style is a little bit similar with the filament. Okay. Ovules contain female gametes, develop into seeds after fertilization. So ovules are the only part that develops into seeds once the fertilization is done. Ovary, lower swollen part of the style, contains ovules, develops into fruit after fertilization. So this ovary only turns into fruit which we eat. It is the fleshy part. Okay. So I think this part is clear to you all. Please view the picture of the flower. It's very important and it's very interesting too. It has many parts and the functions of each parts are very different and they're very interesting to know. So this is the ultimate structure of a flower. So let's see what's next. Now we are coming to the types of flowers. There are various types of flowers we see in our day-to-day life. So let's discuss about that in details. Most flowers have all the four holes, that is sepals, petals, androecium and gynoecium. So they are called complete flowers. The flowers which have all the four holes are called complete flowers. Since both androecium and gynoecium are present in these flowers, they are also called bisexual or hermaphrodite flowers. So complete flowers are also known as bisexual or hermaphrodite flowers. For example, we can take hibiscus, rose, petunia too, and etc. Some flowers lack either a male hole or a female hole. They are called incomplete flowers. Some flowers are unisexual. So incomplete flowers are unisexual in nature. Such flowers are unisexual and will be either male, that is staminate flowers, and will be either female, that is pistillate flowers. So we came to know that unisexual flowers are of two types, staminate flowers and pistillate flowers. If the flower has only the male part, it will be staminate flower, and if the flower only has the female part, it will be pistillate flower. For example, papaya and maize. These are the types of unisexual flowers. There are some flowers which have neither the male nor the female part. They are called the neutral flowers. For example, we can take the ray florets of sunflower. So this is an example of neutral flowers which have neither male nor female parts. Next we come to pollination. For fusion of gametes to occur and seeds to be formed, pollen grains produced in the anther must be transferred to the stigma of the pistil. Now we know that in sexual reproduction the fusion of the gametes is mandatory. The male gametes have to be fused with the female gametes. Then only the sexual reproduction can take place. So for this reason pollination is required. As the trees cannot walk, so how do they reproduce? They reproduce by the process of pollination. The process by which pollen grains from the anther of a flower are transferred to the stigma of the same or another flower is called pollination. So this is the definition of pollination, in which the anthers of a flower are transferred to the stigma of the same or another flower is only called the pollination. Now pollination can be of two types, natural pollination and artificial pollination. Here we will only learn about the natural pollination. Let's see. Self-pollination, the process of transfer of pollen grains from the anthers to the stigma of the same flower or another flower of the same plant is called self-pollination. Okay, now let's come to the cross-pollination. It's only the reverse of self-pollination. Okay, the process of transfer of pollen grains from the anthers of a flower to the stigma of another flower of the same species. Okay, of the another flower of the same species of another plant is called cross-pollination. Means in self-pollination the anthers are transferred to the same flower or the another flower of the same plant. Okay, but in cross-pollination the anthers are deposited to the stigma of another flower of another plant of same species. So this is the only difference between the self-pollination and cross-pollination. Hope you have enjoyed this video. Please learn this concept of biology. It will help you in other days. Thank you.